imagine back in the 1800s walking through here and, I mean, middle of the night or something like that. Probably just as safe then as, maybe safer than it is now.
St. Charles, Missouri was founded in 1769. It was actually founded by a French Canadian, Blaise Baptiste Coates, and was known as the Little Hills. Now let's take a walk down Main Street and see what St. Charles has to offer. And then we're going to take a quick walk over to Lewis and Clark Museum.
What do you think?
I think it's beautiful down here.
It is.
It is a little bit hot, but well worth the walk and well worth the sweat.
Don't you think it's amazing that everybody thinks of St. Louis as being the Cardinals, the Arch, the Budweiser farm, the horses.
Grant's farm.
But everybody forgets about all the history that was here, all the history that began here. Lewis and Clark, this little town of St. Charles has so much history down this main street, and it's, I mean, it's not original obviously, but it's about as close as you're gonna get.
It's, definitely well worth the trip and well worth the walk.
So if you're on the road, I-70, crossing the US, coming into St. Louis, if you go 30 miles outside of St. Louis, there is a national campground there, and it's on the...
It's actually called Quivre River.
Quivre River. It's reasonable, decent. We did a little bit of a review in this episode. However, what you get is you get to come to places like this, St. Charles, see the real history of America. Then, of course, going down to St. Louis to see the Arch. We did.
Absolutely.
So this is the historic main street of St. Charles. I can see it's becoming, like a lot of small towns, it is becoming a business district, tourism and such as that. But you can tell it's got the original brick road with all the bumps to go with it. And all the little traditional storefronts, but you can see it is original, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But it's just that small town effect. So if you're willing to drive 20-30 miles, you can pull into a nice little national park, see all of St. Louis it has to offer, the Arch, so forth, catch a game, and visit some of these little towns, historic towns like this. Old post office, 1900, 1909, and there's the new one, which is now the old one.
As you walk down the main street and you look at all these old storefronts, and I mean, just take a look at the placards that are on each one of these storefronts and the photos of the different time frames, everything from the 1800s, early 1900s. And just imagine what it was like, the soda museum, stepping into a soda fountain back in the day. And now they've transformed this little downtown area.
So this is the Lewis and Clark Boathouse and Museum. Let's see if I can't get us some close-up pictures. It says open today, but I don't see anybody.
Now as we approach this is the actual museum where they house a replica of the keel boat. We'll fix this here in a second. And it's right off or adjacent of the river itself. And every year they put that boat in the water during a parade or significant holiday. It's amazing at the tools that were used and how the pioneers back in the day used to travel this river. I mean, all they had were necessities. As you can see, there wasn't much luxury here, and most of it was open. The captain and Lewis and Clark themselves, they did have some accommodations.
So this is the Lewis and Clark Museum along with the boathouse. I know. The possible bag. This sort of articles that would have been contained in a bag like this. Everything from a compass to a clay pipe to the all-important toothbrush. Hey Don, can we walk through it? You have the money?
Nope, I will go grab it. You leave the truck running?
Yeah, of course I do. So this is tobacco. Not too awful long ago, they were still stringing tobacco. I was I was raised in North Carolina as a teenager, and I've actually cropped tobacco and strung it just like that, and you hang it in the balconies of the little barns, and it dries that way. Some of the heavy winter clothing made out of pellets, muzzle loaders. Building of the keel boat. Some of the tools that would have been used back then. The 1804 U.S. Army private's full dress.
Some days it may only a few miles.
Lewis and Clark and their group departed from Camp Wood on May 14th. They didn't arrive in St. Charles until 2 days later, and then left again on May 21st of 1804. When they arrived in the St. Charles area, they found a group of about 450, mainly French settlers. Lewis and Clark and the group traveled down the Missouri River. Eventually, they crossed the Continental Divide near the Lemhi Pass and coming to the Columbia River and down the Columbia River. Eventually came out at the Pacific Ocean and returned back to St. Charles in that same year. What you see here is a lot of the artifacts, the articles that they would have used, type of hunting, fishing gear, and even with their protection being the U.S. Army, some of the gear that they used. This lean-to looks a lot familiar to me. I was in the military. The way they stack their muzzle loaders is the same way that our military stacks their M16s to this day. Some of the apparel, cooking, the natives that they ran into, they actually had a female guide, a native lady. And we see some of the utensils, the weapons that the Native Americans were using during that time frame. Here we see what one of the Native Americans would have carried their children in. And here in a moment you're going to see the natives actually were teachers. They taught the Lewis and Clark group a lot. This is a little, what's called a bull boat. Take time and pause to read these plaques as we go through. It's amazing at the ingenuity that the Native Americans had back in the 1800s. In this little area right here, if you take time and pause at each one of these little panels here, you'll see that there is some basically quotes from Lewis or Clark during their adventure that was documented, and you can see the trail that they took across the the gateway, the west to the Pacific. Seasons were changing, the individuals they met, the different animals, the different cultures and the environment, everything that they encountered, they documented. I personally find it amazing how our forefathers traveled, how they dealt with the elements, and just today, I don't know if I could do it, honestly. I don't believe I could. I'm not so sure that we could, in today's times, without all the modern technology that we have, be able to accomplish what they did back in the 1800s, early 1900s. If you ever get the opportunity to go through Missouri and stop in St. Charles, go to the museum, walk down through the town itself and look at the history. Our history of settling the West and documenting the West actually started right here in St. Charles. I think you'd enjoy it. Here we are entering the Quivre River National Park. Again, it's off I-70, about 20-30 miles outside of St. Charles, if that. beautiful place. You would never believe that this area existed in this part of Missouri. Now what we see here is a swimming area. It's very clean, it's roped off. There is no lifeguards or anything, but they do have facilities for showering off and restroom. Now, as you enter the campground right here, you can go to the left, which is where your bigger rigs like I was in is going to be, and there is absolutely no shade over there. I actually lost my awning there, and check out that video up there. Now, you take a right and you go in, and there are some spots for larger rigs, but they're shaded, beautiful area. It's also located, you're going to see here in a moment, where the showers for the campground and the laundry facilities are located. Now we're coming up here on the laundry facility and the showers. Now the laundry facility was down and not being used when we were there. I hope they have got it back up and functioning again. And there were a lot of people there that weekend. So my wife and her friend were saying the showers weren't in the greatest of shape. Again, it was a very busy weekend though. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing, guys.